Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very special guest for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
I certainly can. And so, first off, thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Doug Lawrence, and I am a retired Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer, and I'm currently located in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada.
Wow, I never heard of that. How far from Toronto, Canada are you?
3 hours and 15 minutes by aircraft.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So can we go ahead and thank you, by the way, for saying those kind words. Can we go ahead and dig into your past, leading up into your present, what you do now?
Yeah, we certainly can. So, um, I guess if I go right back to sort of the starting point, I'm a Saskatchewan-born farm boy who had dreams and aspirations uh, to join the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and be a police officer serving other people. And I joined in 1974, and I retired from there after having served approximately 25 years. Retired in 1998 slash 1999
Wow.
was the time frame. So, and I bounced all over. I was stationed, here in Saskatchewan, albeit briefly, and then I had a couple tours of duty in British Columbia. But
What
probably
was your
the
job title as a police officer? What was your job? What did you do? Basic stuff?
Yeah, it was for the first 15 years, it was basic law enforcement work. So on patrol, um, you know, all those sorts of things. And then towards the tail end, I spent more time in the office as I moved up the ranks, as we'll call it. So when I retired at the rank of a staff sergeant. So fairly, thank you. Never intended for that to happen, but it did. So yeah, I retired and I went from being a retired police officer. Actually, the if the truth be known, I had made a decision to retire because I wanted to be able to go and find something to do that was going to excite me and that I was going to be able to obviously give back. I didn't want to end up in retiring and getting a job that was a job for the sake of having to have a paycheck. I wanted it to be something that had meaning and substance to it. So I ended up working for a financial organization where I was brought in to provide leadership to a very young group of technical resources. Now, you have to understand that my technical expertise was zero to nil, but what I brought to the table was the leadership part that they were looking for. And so I provided leadership to this young team. And then from there, I ended up going in and started my own management consulting firm where I did quite a bit of that. And then from there, back into government again, where I was providing leadership to as many as 160 employees, mostly in the technical side of government at that particular stage. So I did that for a bit, and actually towards the tail end of my tenure with them, I ended up being asked to do some HR work and leading a team. We were going through the amalgamation of what was there 21 information technology departments, branches, whatever you want to call, that were in existence, and they wanted to centralize the service model. So I was brought in to, number one, I hired a couple of recent human resource graduates, and I provided the training for them to write. I think we did 140 some odd job descriptions that we had to write. And so I had them do all that work. And eventually, as time went on, I ended up having to hire two more people because the first two got scooped up by another organization because of what their capabilities were. So I went through 6 people in total during my time there. And then I ended up in 2009, I believe it was my term working in the provincial government was drawing to an end, and I saw that there was an opportunity for me to be able to. Uh, I was job coaching and quasi mentoring. I didn't know what it actually was that I was doing at that particular time point, but what I what I
Can
was
you
what,
define quasi mentoring? Because I don't know what that is. You know, you're more mature than me, you know.
okay. So when I talk, it was sort of mentoring, but I wasn't really sure what it was because I was doing the job coaching thing, and with that I was helping people write resumes, cover letters, getting them prepped for interviews and stuff like that. And I was doing that for university or college students. And after I did it, 3, 4 times, kept getting referrals and all that sort of stuff. They said, you need to do this for a living. We can't afford to pay you, but I'm sure somebody would be able to pay you. So I started to do my market research, and I found out that yes, there is definitely a need for mentoring in pretty much anywhere you want to look. And yes, there's definitely a need for mentor certification. You can get a certified coach, you can get a life coach, you can get all sorts, but there was nothing in existence for mentoring. And I felt that there was. So at that stage, I partnered with an organization in the United States to provide certification based on knowledge.
How long was
And
these classes for you to become a coach and a
sorry,
mentor? How long were the classes for you to become a coach and mentor?
to become a mentor, it was 2 levels of training. The first was a 1 day course, and the second one was it was about a week.
Cool. Yes. I like it.
Yeah, and what ended up happening was, as time went on, the mentoring community said, what you're providing is good, but we want to be certified competent. We don't want to be just certified as having the knowledge. We want to be able to say that I have the knowledge and I can apply this based on, processes, best practices, and all that. So I ended up partnering with somebody here in Canada who is a international standards organization, kind of a guru, like an expert in that area. And he and I worked together to build a certification process based on competence. And so that's kind of where I am today, other than I threw myself a curveball and I decided to do a bunch of research. And what I'm doing now is looking at mentoring through the eyes of somebody who is dealing with post traumatic stress, dealing with mental health issues, but more importantly, dealing with grief. And how do I go about dealing with that? And as a mentor, can I help somebody navigate through that healing journey that they're on, and be able to not only take care of my own grief, but be able to help them. And part of it is I've walked in the same pair of shoes, or close to the same pair of shoes as what they have.
Well said. And you just explained the tip of the iceberg, but I would like to know, in your words, what is so important personally about being a mentor and a coach for people that are struggling with PTSD and everything? Can you kind of elaborate a little bit?
I sure can. And the big thing that I have found, and that a lot of people are trying to replicate, for lack of a better choice, is the aspect that a great mentor is somebody who can and hear, listen and hear, not be judgmental, not be somebody who is going to say, I can fix your problem. This is what you need to do. That's the last thing that people want to have happen. And I'm going through some course material on peer support. And that's one of the things from a peer support perspective that they say that you're not, you're not here to be a fixer.
Mhm.
You're here to be, uh,
See.
listen, yeah, listening and hearing. You're here to be non-judgmental, and you need to know the questions that need to be asked to have a conversation, a dialogue, so that you're not, because everybody wants to have a conversation where they feel comfortable, where they feel safe. And
Mhm.
if you choose the wrong words, you're going to undermine that capacity or that capability. And so for mentors, it's extremely important. And what I teach people when I teach, if I'm asked to teach mentoring, I'm very adamant about the aspect of you need to be a great listener and somebody who listens and hears. You need to be somebody who's non-judgmental and all of those things that we've already talked about. You need to be there. And if you're not, then maybe you're not the right person.
I have a question, and I hope that this will be a freebie. I had a young lady, I'm not going to say her name, but I was mentoring. This was my first time mentoring. I think that I would be a great mentor and coach. It's going to happen again through ACP, but enough about me. To get to the point, this is an example. I mentored her, but I had her online. It was like a mini webinar, and I couldn't get through to her. I don't know if it was me. Like you said, I cannot fix her. And that's what I was lacking, I believe, because she kept saying she was doing good but doing bad, but she didn't know what to change. And when I told her some suggestions, she's like, I know. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do no more. What would you suggest?
So in that particular situation, I would turn around and I would ask the question. So if you could have it that when you wake up tomorrow morning and you put both feet on the floor, what would be something that would excite you?
Okay.
What would be something that would make you want to dig deeper in? Because you said ACP?
Yeah, ACP is a Veterans Mentor and Coaching program for people that goes to the University of Phoenix that coaches other veterans and people.
And the reason I asked is because I actually mentor through the American Corporate Partners in the
That's it.
US.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm one of their mentors.
Cool.
So, and I'm working with a chap right now that he. I asked that same question. I said, "What would excite you? What would make you want to put both feet on the floor in the morning and rise and say this is my day?" And he said, "Well, I'm not really sure." I said, "Tell me a little bit more about what some of your favorite memories have been of things that you've done that you were excited because this was something you were going to get to do." And he said, "Well, I love working with cars." And I said, "How about we take a look at what it would take?" And I said, I can't speak to the process in the United States for becoming an apprentice mechanic or journey person, whichever term you want to use. But I said, what we're going to do is we're going to explore that, or you're going to explore that. And
I
so
like
that's what we did was he went back to Veteran Affairs and got funding and all sorts of stuff and everything else. But the one thing that I know better and should have prompted at the beginning a little bit better was there was some mental health issues. And
that.
that was something that was holding him back because his self-esteem, self-confidence had been shaken. And he he was struggling. So dealt with that part and I said, so tell me what else along the lines of the automotive stuff that excited you? And he said, well, my brother and I used to, we would build customized exhaust systems
Wow.
and take them to the car shows and sell them at the car shows. And he said, I really, really like that. And I said, let's put that into place. Let's do that and get that going. And so I just talked to him here the other day, and they're gearing up for the April time frame of actually getting to a car show and doing all of that. And what's interesting, because I've instilled in him a
Mm-hmm.
sense or a feeling of self-confidence, he still wants to go through and do the schooling part.
Good.
The schooling part was kind of rattled his cage a little bit too much, and so now we're going to focus on the exhaust system and get that all going great. And then when the time is right, he's going to look for somebody to help guide him through course selection and all of that sort of stuff. Because I think what happened was he enrolled in a program that was a bit beyond where he is today, and so we need to kind of build that ever so slowly. So
Basically, you created a plan with him and you kind of reversed it. You wanted him to see what he loved to do. And so
yeah.
I didn't do that. I'm not the best, you know. So I learned through you, and I learned from my mistake, and I'm not going to do that next time. But this isn't about me. So how long have you been working with ACP?
Oh gosh, what would it be now? 4 or 5 years?
Wow. Awesome. You think that that program, have you met people like physically instead of virtually? Or
It's
okay,
all virtual. Yeah.
tell me about how you got started into the ACP program.
I believe, if my memory serves me correct, I saw an advertisement or I saw them reaching out, and I thought, I'm already doing work internationally with the Branson program in the Caribbean. Let's find out what they're looking for. And so that's what I did. Was I fired off an email and said I would be interested in being part of your program. Here's my background. Here's my credentials. And next thing I know, I get matched with, and I can't even. That's bad. I should remember, but I can't remember who my first one was. But I've had probably 5 or 6 people now that I've worked for or with. And I'm one of the mentors that the program people will say, we have mentor X over here that's struggling and trying to make a connection with their protege, and they're struggling to do so. Could you help them? And so I get asked if I can help other mentors as well. So
That's what I need you for, if possible, because I'm not all perfect. So okay, that is excellent. I can tell you're very laid back, but you're very intuitive, like a psychologist or something. Um, Tell me, like, you sat up there, I want to rewind a little bit into your police officer's duties as a staff sergeant, and then let's go back further to when you were out on the street. Tell me about an instance where you helped somebody, because this all falls into place as you being a coach. So tell me something, like a situation where you were out on the street and somebody was, not doing something illegal, but you had to help them through a tough situation as a Canadian police officer.
wow.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm. What's interesting is that was just part of my everyday routine, was that I would do things that would be of value to somebody else, and I would think nothing of it. It just it yeah, you just, when you commit to providing service, you aren't looking to sort of see, what's in it for me and all of that. But I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, because you was on the force for 25 years, right? Yeah, that's a wow.
and I've, some of the memories I have, some of the things that I've done were things where, so we ended up helping somebody for a period of time, and then something tragic happened. And then, so then you got to deal with that and be able to go with that.
Okay, how about this? Do you think, based in your city, that they should fund the police? I don't know what they're doing in Canada, but in America, they are trying to defund the police. What is your insight on how you've been around decorated officers and how y'all contributed 25, some people even more, but you 25 years of your life to helping people and stopping criminals? Tell me what you think about Canada rules and what you think that maybe could go on with America. If you don't want to answer that question, I'll move on to another one now.
No, I don't have a problem answering that, because there has been that conversation here in Canada about um, the breaking away from what we have in place today, which is a national police force. So that would be, what would that would be the equivalent of, I'm not quite sure what your equivalent would be in the US, but here in Canada we have, right across Canada, the national police force is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And there has been some discussions, especially in the southern part of British Columbia. There's been quite a movement towards them taking on their own policing. So one of the cities has and I can't remember if they've passed a motion at council or whether they're still in the conversation and that, but they're talking about doing that. There's all kinds of different questions that need to be asked. Cost is one thing. Are you going to be providing, is it going to be a 2 officer per patrol car, or is it only one? Like I spent 2 years in the high Arctic in Hall Beach back then the Northwest Territories. I was there for 2 years by myself. I had no support, no backup. If I needed backup, it was 30 minutes by aircraft from the closest settlement. People don't understand what that actually could mean. That's where I think I started to fine tune my listening and hearing skills and my communication skills. Where I was in that particular community, I was the only. There's 20 people that were of white, and the rest were all Inuit.
What's Inuit mean? Like
Uh,
immigrants?
no, they're Eskimo.
Eskimo. Okay. Got you. Yeah.
Yeah. They only spoke Inuktitut, which was their native dialect, and I had to learn how to communicate with them, and all the time, all the while being knowing full well that I would have to come up with some crazy way of doing that because I didn't speak their language.
Wow. If you don't know, there's 200 and almost 50,000 police officers here in the United States to 300 and almost 50 and counting million people here. There's 8,000 police officers here in Washington State to 8 million people. I think there should be more incentives and more benefits for them risking their lives and more laws so people won't downgrade them and treat them like crap. And they need to respect police officers. The respect factor has gone. You see a police officer, you be like, hi sir, hi ma'am, and they say it back, but nowadays people are fighting the police, and getting away with it, slap on the wrist. I don't like that. I don't.
It's like everything else in the world today. There are good ones and there are bad ones.
I agree.
And I've seen both. I've had experiences with both. And some of my fondest memories are one of the first female police officers came to work in one of the small communities. And she was a young lady in the greatest of shape you could imagine. In fact, she had one of the local bad boys, so to speak, decide he was going to put her in her place, only to find out that she put him in his place, and that embarrassed him in front of the entire community. And after that, he became her greatest ally.
I like that. That's the
So
powerful story I was looking for. It didn't include you, but you were there watching, and that's
yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah. Moving on. What do you see yourself going in the future coaching? Do you want to be around an audience of people? Have a web link to webinars? Where do you see yourself, Doug?
So I've embarked on this journey of mine where I've done over 140 podcasts where I have tried to get my message out. And the message was, mental health, mentoring, and grief dealing. And I tell my story / Deborah's story about her passing and all of that. Um, what I want to be able to do is to continue to be able to help other people in their healing journey and help them discover, some as much as we possibly can about themselves. Like just today, this afternoon, I had a call with an individual who was struggling with their self confidence, self esteem. And so we went through some techniques that she could put into practice that were going to help alleviate that. And by the time the call was done, she had changed her tone of conversation from that of being a negative person to now she was positive, and she saw that if she continued to move forward in a positive light, that there was going to be the opportunity for good things to happen for her was going to be a lot greater than what they are today.
Do you think that you would like to? Well, we'll talk after this, but how you see yourself helping people in the future? One last question: do you, in your coaching, whichever one you do, because you do two or three of them, do you get paid for it?
Some I do, some I don't.
Cool. We'll talk after the show, but tell me, like, what is your greatest accomplishment in coaching, and then we'll end with how to find you.
I think my what I would have to say is my my greatest accomplishment would be uh, the recognition of the need for mentors to be certified and being able to provide that for them. That's one. The second thing that I would have to say is probably of more importance is the aspect of we need to make sure that mentoring is part of the support structure for mental health. To not do that is making a grave mistake because there's not enough people out there today that are supporting or helping people on their healing journey. And if you have a mentor who can work in that space and who's comfortable doing so, that's going to just, you can't replace that.
100% well said. And how can the people reach you, Doug?
So they can check me out on LinkedIn if they would like to be able to do so. You can go to my website, which is www.talentc, so the word talent and the letter C on the end.ca. And then last, but certainly not least, is to send me a message direct at doug.lawrence, that's LAWRENCE, at talentc, so the word talent, letter C on the end.ca, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can.
Thank you so much, Doug, for joining my show. Stay on the line. You guys, Doug Lawrence, what a wonderful coach and mentor. He actually mentored me and don't even know it over the line. So y'all take care, be safe, and I'll be back on here later.